Hello and welcome to Murder Dictionary Podcast. My name is Brianna and that is Kelly.
Hey.
So before we get started, we always remind you of a few things you'll find in our description and show notes every single week. You will always find links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter if you want to follow us over there. We've got memes, we've got information about serial killers, we've got some release date information whenever we put out new episodes. So check that out, follow us over there. And we have links to resources that we use for research. So if you want to follow up on any of our episodes, you can find out some of the articles and documentaries and stuff like that we used.
Just all Wikipedia. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Speak for yourself.
I'm joking. I just wanted to see your face.
I'm a baby detective.
Yeah.
No, it's surprising sometimes where the resources come from, but I'm just like, okay, I'll take that. A lot of Murderpedia. That's my jam.
Yeah, you like
Definitely.
the ones from different countries, like
yes, yeah.
UK.
I'm a big fan of UK newspapers as well.
Yep.
Even if it's an American story, sometimes they report better on
Yeah.
it. So if you want to check that out, check out our show notes. We also have some resources for self-help and for like domestic violence and anti-bullying, victims
steps.
resources, 12 steps, stuff like that. So if you want to check out those, if you need any help with anything, there's a few things you can check out there. We also have links to our Patreon and our Threadless. So if you want some bigger merch items like shirts and notebooks, phone cases, stuff like that, we have a bunch of stuff on Threadless with quite a few different designs at this point. So if you want those, check out our Threadless and there will be a link. And if you want some smaller merch items or bonus episodes, you can find those at Patreon. So I have one bonus episode in the queue, so that should go out probably right before this episode comes out. So if you want a new bonus episode, check out our Patreon. Cool. So we have a few new people on our Patreon this week that we wanted to say thank you to. So we have Nancy, Henry, Megan, Robin, Beverly, and Angela.
Nancy, Henry, Megan, Bobby,
Robin.
Close, yeah.
Beverly. I think you combined Robin and Beverly.
Beverly.
And the last one is Angela. So thanks you guys for your support on Patreon.
Thank
Definitely
you so
check
much.
out the bonus episode and we'll send some items out to you soon. Cool. And I think that's pretty much it for the Biz Nasty. We can get to our story.
Let's dive right in.
Yes, we're on XXX Part 2.
Vin Diesel.
I wish people could see your dance moves to represent these letters.
It's like remember the old wrestling?
Yeah.
Suck it.
So we've got more XXX stories. We're focusing on some porn stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So this week we've got the story of Michael Thevis. Cool.
Don't know him.
This is going to be kind of like, I really like the stories that are kind of organized crime-ish.
Mm-hmm.
This feels a lot like that. So,
what's his girth? I like that. Let's start with that.
yeah. I don't really have that info on him.
Oh.
And I don't think you would want to know judging off his picture.
Should have used Wikipedia, man.
They've got all the girth info.
Now I want to see his picture.
Yeah, I mean, he just looks like, a middle-aged dude. I mean, this story is also kind of old, so middle-aged in like the 70s.
Oh.
Which nobody really looked good.
It's dusty now.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
lot more plastic surgery. So
Back then?
no, now.
Oh,
So they
okay.
look better when they're old.
Oh, okay.
So Michael Thevis was the son of poor immigrant parents from Greece. He was born February 25th, 1932 in Raleigh, North Carolina. His parents were actually so poor that they left Michael with his grandparents to raise him. It was like in that era where you just kind of got rid of your kids when you couldn't afford it,
But the grandparents could.
I don't even think so. I really don't. So he still grew up poor. They didn't really save him for much, but I think it was more of a selfish thing. Like, well, we can't do this. So
Yeah. We only have enough money for us.
Right. So his grandparents raised him in a devout Greek Orthodox home. He was super religious when he was young. His grandparents were, and he kind of absorbed every bit of it. He really bought it hook, line, and sinker. So he was such a believer that he actually considered becoming a priest when he was young, well into his teen years, actually, too. Michael said, "My family were Greek immigrants that didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. When the rest of the kids would be playing, I'd be working my butt off." So from an early age, he kind of learned to prioritize getting money over anything else because he grew up so poor. He just wanted to, not live that way for the rest of his life.
Not be poor.
Exactly. I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, I'm trying that every day.
So people say that Michael was really charismatic and he had kind of a hypnotic effect on people around him. Like he was one of those people that could, even as a kid, kind of convince anyone to do anything. If you wanted to kind of get into trouble or do something stupid, he didn't have a problem getting other people on board,
It's persuasive.
Exactly.
Do you think he used one of those little things that he like swished in front of your face,
Right?
in front of your eyes?
He had a
like
little pocket watch
Yeah.
at like 7. You are getting very sleepy. So people were just naturally drawn to him. He was one of those magnetic kind of people, and he was very popular. People described him as always having a, quote, evil glint in his eye. Even as a kid. Not good.
That's a weird mix. Like he's charismatic and he gets you into like trouble and stuff like that, and he's got that weird evil look.
Right. Like he's up to no good, but you still kind of like him.
Yeah.
That's his thing. Yeah. In his youth, he developed kind of a taste for the finer things, especially because he really longed for them because he couldn't afford them. But since he came from poverty, he really had to be creative about how he acquired nice things. So he became, of course, a klepto. And he spent a lot of his free time shoplifting. Like other kids would be out playing games and whatever, around the block doing whatever. And he was just in the shops trying to steal things. But he eventually got arrested for stealing. And he decided, of course, that he shouldn't pursue entering the priesthood because now he had a criminal record.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be a good idea.
Right. Like, hey guys, I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm here to expunge my record. In 1951, Michael dropped out of high school at 17 years old. He decided to leave North Carolina. He kind of felt like there was really nothing there for him, not many opportunities or whatnot. So he hoped that he could go somewhere where he could make it,
Yeah, with a new record. Clean slate.
Exactly. So he hopped into the back of an orange truck and headed to Atlanta.
What? That's so cool.
Right? I think I would like to do that today.
Yeah, but we just get to Bakersfield and then we'd stop. Or Oxnard.
Pretty much. I think that's the end of the line when you come from LA. People are always coming here, but not many people are going.
No, yeah.
Yeah. All the orange trucks end in Bakersfield. So once Michael got his footing in Atlanta, he decided to finish high school. So he enrolled at Georgia Tech afterwards. He got a job managing a busy downtown newsstand, and he was making $50 a week. I should have converted that, but,
Sounds like a lot.
it's a whole lot of money in that era. So I guess he was doing, okay for himself, but still at the same time, he wasn't really doing great. Like he was still technically in poverty pretty much.
He wasn't stealing stuff though, right?
Yes. At this point, I think he stopped stealing things. He really seemed to learn his lesson with that. He was afraid of getting in trouble.
So he's doing better.
Yeah. Sure. So he studied while he worked nights at the newsstand, but eventually he had trouble keeping up and supporting himself through college. So he decided to drop out of college. At 19, he fell in love with a 16-year-old woman named Josie who worked at a nearby store. They got married and they moved into a tiny apartment that was in a terrible area right next to the prison in Atlanta. And of course, they started having kids. They would go on to have 5 children together, even though they were in extreme poverty.
Well, if you're broke,
by child 1.
You can't go out. You live in a shitty neighborhood. You can't go walk around. You're only staying inside to have sex.
Right, exactly.
So,
it makes sense.
I get it.
Yeah. Michael promised his new wife that he would be a millionaire before he was 30. and she was really madly in love with him. She believed every bit of it, you know, and he was also really so hardworking and dedicated that it seemed plausible, you know. But at the time, they were really, really poor, and they struggled to make ends meet, especially the more that they had kids. Michael says he was so poor that he couldn't afford to put antifreeze in his car. So his car broke down, and he was really devastated that he was stuck in this vicious cycle where he was too poor to make it to work, basically, to make money and get out of poverty. It was very much a low point for him that really stands out, and kind of a rock bottom of sorts, where he's like, I gotta come up with a plan to get out of this, you know?
Did he try Uber?
Exactly. He's here to pick me up right now. I gotta go. I'm gonna tip him well.
I know poor people that use Uber all the time.
I know, right? Just like, you're spending so much money just getting from point A to point B.
But if you
So
ride
bad.
enough, they offer you monthly passes.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. So Michael said, I could remember sitting on the curb and crying because it was so cold and the motor was frozen and I couldn't even get to my job. But usually, most of the time, the setbacks didn't get him down because he was really motivated and hardworking, and he believed that America was like this magical country where somebody could really make it as long as they worked hard. He was one of those true believers.
Yeah, and like the American dream.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
That's sweet.
I know.
Especially back then, it probably was more plausible, right?
Yeah, I think that, he was from kind of that era where people could push and make it.
Yeah, now a million's not anything. There isn't much at all.
Nope. So Michael told the owner of the newsstand that he worked at that he could take on more responsibility. He let him know that he was trying to move up, trying to make more money, and he would do what it takes to prove that he could do it. And one of the things that he suggested was he wanted the boss to open up another location. He's like, I'm managing this one. Let's just have more, and I can still manage it. It won't be a problem for you. We'll make more money. So his boss obliged and opened up more locations. By 1955, he had opened several more newsstands, and Michael was managing 3 of them.
It's a good plan.
Yeah. And of course, making more money, so he was kind of moving his way up.
It's like the height of printing press, too.
Right.
When people actually read newspapers.
Exactly. Yeah. With his connections in the newsstand business, he decided to go into publishing. So he was always kind of thinking one step ahead, like trying to move forward. His first publishing venture was a book called The Godless Christian, written by a university professor. And of course, it was just like a religious book, but it was a little bit controversial. So he was kind of obviously attracted to that sort of controversial subject matter. After the release of the book, he started thinking about what would make him the most money for his next book.
Puppies.
Puppy Digest. So he actually, of course, as we know, realized that 90% of his profits from the newsstand were coming from 10% of his stock. And of course, that 10% was all of the nudie magazines like Playboy, Dude, Gent, all that stuff. He got in trouble at the newsstand for selling the girly magazines, but he knew they were so profitable that he just kept doing it. The police harassed him frequently. They were always dropping by and checking to see if they had him on the stands. But he fought and wanted to protect his business, and he wanted to protect the right to sell the material,
I forget that people used to get hassled for stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this was really the time period where this was happening was when it was going into a lot of court cases where there were people really being charged for selling it and then trying to defend the First Amendment. So it was kind of a hot issue at the time. Michael said, "It seems ludicrous now, but I can assure you that it was considered a serious crime in the 1950s Bible Belt South." But he was, willing to take the hit. That was his thing. In 1960, Michael Thevis published a guide to America's nudist colonies.
That's weird.
It was all just written, no pictures. It was just kind of information about nudists.
That
and
doesn't sound hot at all. It
Right,
doesn't sound
right.
like spank material. Ugh.
But I don't know. People really were into it. It really flew off the shelves. I mean, it was a hit
You
for
just
sure.
get some friends, then you guys meet up and take your clothes off, and then you just walk
Right.
around. It's a colony.
It sounds so boring, but it was so risque at the time. Like, it was unheard of. It was crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, it had no pictures, all just descriptions, but it made him a ton of money. So with the profits, he started a distribution company and he called it Peachtree News. And what he did is he also just hired a ton of writers to come up with content. So it was nothing good, just like cheap smut, just kind of barely erotica, you know?
I mean, how do you top the nudist colony?
Right? But they churned out a ton of like cheap paperbacks, like that kind of shit that you see, you know, with like Fabio on the cover. And it was really just kind of romance and sex scenes all over. But, you know, at the time it was a pretty bold move, but he knew it would make money, you know, and it still kind of, from what I understand, operated a little bit more within the law because it wasn't pictures. So there was a way to kind of conceal it more, you know?
Okay.
In 1967, Michael took a business trip to New York and he saw peep show machines for the very first time.
What's that?
So those are like a jukebox for porn. They're arcades, what we know now as arcades. So it would be an 8mm projector that played like really short loops of porn. Some of them, they say it was like 15 seconds, which seems crazy. But it collected quarters or nickels or whatever it was, and you put coins in and it would play you a few seconds of porn. He'd previously seen like the PG version that showed cartoons and stuff, because these were popular, let's say like carnivals, fairs, stuff like that with cartoons. And kids would go up and put a coin in and watch cartoons for a minute, you know?
Okay.
But now it was kind of making its way into the adult world with little peep shows. Of course, Michael observed, being in Times Square, that the adult version of those was just making a ton of money. There were lines waiting outside the peep show machines. It was just collecting quarters all night, all day, all the time.
That's so crazy.
Nonstop money. Yeah. And there were people like fighting to get in them. Like it was really intense.
I wonder if they got robbed too.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
busted open.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That was definitely a problem. Yeah.
Crazy.
So Michael saw the enormous money-making potential here, of course. And so he went back to Atlanta and he decided to use the publishing profits that he was bringing in with his little paperbacks. And he would make improvements on the machines and start selling those. That was his next big business venture. So he hired a local locksmith named Roger Underhill to make his own prototype. And like you said, because theft was such a big deal, they incorporated more security features in their version. So it could protect his profit and also the owners of the machines that were obviously losing money because they were being broken into.
Smart.
Yeah. Roger was a bald ex-con who was extremely intelligent and highly skilled at security work because he was also a thief.
Two thieves together.
Right? It's going to go real well.
Yeah.
So Roger had been caught hacking telephones with an illegal blue box and claimed to have worked undercover for what would later become the DEA. He kind of had just some gnarly stories. He was one of those dudes, and he operated kind of on both sides of the law. He walked that line between the legitimate world and the criminal underground, so he had a lot of experience to draw from to make things more secure because he knew how to break into things.
Yeah.
You know?
It reminds me of, what's his name? Remember in Breaking Bad, Mike?
Yeah, yeah.
I could see.
Yeah.
Like he could be a cop, but also a really good criminal.
Right. Exactly. So over the next couple years, Roger worked with Michael to build what they thought of as the perfect peep show machine. By 1969, they had started selling their version, which they believed would be more profitable and, of course, theft-proof, which is a big deal at the time.
Is it antimicrobial?
Yes, and antibacterial. And anti-fascist. So Michael started Automatic Enterprises and Cinematics as his peep show companies. That same year, Michael Thevis launched his peep show company. The Supreme Court unanimously overturned a Georgia law forbidding the possession of obscene material. But this meant that it was legal to own pornography, so if you just had it on you or whatever, that was fine. However, it was still illegal to produce it or to sell it. So Michael was still vulnerable to criminal charges anyway, but it did change the leniency of how people viewed pornography, you know?
Okay.
It lifted a little bit of that stigma, but it was still illegal for him, you know? But of course that didn't stop him. Michael would tell bookstore owners, I'll put in 8 of my peep show machines and you'll make at least $1,000 a week off them, and we'll split it 50-50. So basically, one of his main selling points was that he wasn't even selling the machines. He was just saying, I believe in these machines so much that I'll install them for free and we'll both make money. That's it. Just let me put them here. And he was right. It worked.
But then you gotta like have that trade-off of having a line of dudes at your store, at your bookstore at
Right.
all times.
You're like, do you want a ton of dudes in here?
Yeah.
Fighting?
Who's cleaning that up? Like, that's so messy.
All you have to do is hire a maid. You don't have
that's
to,
true.
you know, you don't have to pay for the machines, but you're going to spend a lot of money on bleach.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's still a good business idea. Like,
Oh,
now,
for sure. Yeah.
You want to go halvesies on one?
I know, right? Can we put it in your living room?
Yes.
So the machines quickly became so popular that his factory couldn't even keep up with the sales, of course. Yeah, he was taking orders right and left that he couldn't even really fulfill. But he's like, eventually they'll be there and you're not out any money because I didn't charge you for them.
Dude,
you know?
guys are so horny.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So he put the profit from his peep show machines back into the adult industry by opening a string of X-rated theaters and adult bookstores across the entire U.S. They were everywhere.
This guy's a genius.
He is. I
honestly.
mean, really. Yeah. But no matter how many adult locations he opened, his biggest moneymaker was always the peep show machines, for sure. And he made good on his promise to his wife that by the time he was 37, he was a millionaire.
In your face.
Right? By 1970, he had more than 6,000 peep machines operating in the U.S. He was bringing in annual profits of $25 million, which was more than Hewlett-Packard or Hershey Foods were making at the time.
No way.
Yeah, he was killing it. Killing the game.
Peep machines.
Yep. Authorities estimated that at his peak, Michael Thevis controlled 40% of the American pornography market. Crazy. But just to counter that, because I always want to be accurate, there's other sources that say that there are other people in the country at the time that were as big in pornography as him, but nobody heard of them because Michael always went around telling people how much he was made. Like maybe because he was so flamboyant and outspoken that he just was more visible than some of the other people. But either way, he was still really killing it. He was making a ton of money. So, but there are other sources that kind of disagree.
Yeah, it's such a big selling industry. I'm sure if he had more booths, they would have been filled at all times too. So of course there's other companies. And
I think it's kind of, in my opinion, it's a little bit hard to tell because at the time it was so taboo and underground that how do you even track that? True. It's a lot easier to track now when porn is a little bit more mainstream. But back in the day, they didn't have that kind of information, you know, like, yeah.
And the arcades, I mean, obviously different years, but you know the ones where the girls like dance? And
yes.
I want to do one of those. I mean, not do one of those. I want to own one of those.
Yeah. They seem really cool.
Yeah, they seem neat.
Yeah. So after the initial success of the machines, Roger Underhill redesigned them with a meter inside to check the integrity of the bookstore owners that had the machines. Because, of course, additionally with the security of not having theft from the outside, They suspected there was probably a lot of people skimming off the top, you know?
Yeah, you're making so much money. I mean,
right, that they got greedy. So they added that in as a security feature. Michael promoted Roger to be a minor partner in the business since he'd done a really great job building the machines and keep innovating and stuff like that. Roger was extremely dedicated. Michael would call the factory at like 1 a.m. and Roger like was still there working. He'd have to beg him to go home basically. But he was like, I'm making money, you know? He was just as dedicated as Michael. He just wanted to keep going.
that's a good motivator.
Right.
Just money pouring in.
Right. And they were just like two peas in a pod. They were both addicted to the profits and they just kept pushing for more, you know? So not only were they colleagues, but Michael and Roger also spent most of their free time together. They liked to watch river races, climb cliffs, they rode dirt bikes, and they also both had families, so they would take their families out together. They'd go on picnics and go shopping, stuff like that.
They're spending too much time together.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Already.
One time while their families were hanging out, Michael's son, Tony, got food stuck in his throat and started to choke really badly. And Roger basically came to his rescue and saved Tony's life.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Michael was eternally grateful, of course, overcome with emotion when he saw it happening. And the event basically solidified them as, you know, going from friends to like family.
To besties, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're forever in debt, kind of.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It was kind of a defining moment for their friendship. Both of them kept the adult world completely separate from their family. By all accounts, Michael, of course, still had really old school values. So even though he was involved in porn, even though that was his industry and his moneymaker, the values from his upbringing really stuck with him. And he was so kind of old school in his beliefs that he wanted to keep everything separate.
That's good because you don't live that life. It's not a high risk lifestyle. Like you're just making the money off of it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely much more healthy for your family for sure. So for him, it was just a money-making opportunity, not a lifestyle, which is kind of unique for what we hear with a lot of people in the porn industry, whether that be actors or business people or whatever. They really have a lot of crossover, or a lot of times you just find that they're addicted to sex.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for him, it wasn't really like that. He had a really clear line between his family and his business. He also kind of carried that over a little bit into his business, where he frowned on intra-office affairs. He banned Playboy from his office. Like, even though the product was there, he really didn't want anything scandalous around.
Yeah.
He wanted business to stay focused on business.
You don't want your bartenders to be drunk
all the time. He bought his wife and children a $3 million mansion in an exclusive upscale Atlanta neighborhood. He had a private screening room, a swimming pool, Chinese antiques, and French furniture. He also had the ceilings painted like the Sistine Chapel with scenes of Greek myths. He was real over the top.
That's pretty awesome.
Although the profits were, of course, amazing, as we discussed, and his family life was fantastic, he really had to fight constant legal battles. So the money was good, but there was always kind of this dark cloud hanging over his head where he was possibly going to get in trouble. He was fighting cases all the time, getting in trouble for selling this stuff, getting in trouble for transporting it, and always at the threat of going to jail. He always had a few cases hanging over him.
Yeah, then couldn't they take most of your stuff? Kind of like with drugs? Like
right.
You're just on the brink. You're just scared of feeling like everything you have is
you can lose everything.
Yeah, that's a pretty unsettling feeling.
Yeah. Over the years, he had nearly 100 arrests for distribution of pornography. It's a fuck ton. He reportedly advised his adult store managers that they would undoubtedly be arrested and that they shouldn't worry about it because it would be free publicity.
That's good.
And of course, I mean, it worked. They saw him doing well. They saw him staying out of jail, and his employees didn't really worry about it. They knew that Michael could afford to pay for the lawyers and they would take care of them, you know?
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal if you know you're going to get bailed out.
Exactly.
You get bailed out and paid.
Right. It's time and a half.
Exactly.
So the combination of Michael's, highly skilled First Amendment lawyers and America's definitely like evolving stance on pornography helped keep him and his employees out of jail for a long time. They were able to constantly fight whatever cases were brought up against them. Again, it kind of helped that it was legal to have pornography, and that had changed recently, so they were definitely headed in the direction where it was legal to produce and, transport.
Yeah.
So it was definitely starting to be more of a gray area. Michael decided to form the American Publishers and Distributors Association, APDA, which lobbied for laws protecting the newly formed porn industry. It was really still young at that point, so he wanted to get involved not only in just the money-making part of it, but protecting it and the legal and government aspect, you know. Michael served as APDA's president and opened offices in Washington, D.C., started kind of lobbying and stuff from there. But his problems with the law were not exclusively focused on pornography. Law enforcement believed that he also had ties to the mob. Undercover agents overheard members of La Cosa Nostra telling Michael that he owned the machines, but they, the family, were in charge, quote.
So he's being extorted. Help him. Jesus Christ.
The man is in trouble. Get him out.
Do your job.
Yeah, I don't know. There's other sources that claim that he wasn't involved with the mob, but there's quite a few that seem to suggest he was on some level. There were speculations that certain mob members gave gifts to Michael's kids. They were especially concerned about a pony that showed up at the house that they believed were from mob members.
It just showed up.
It's always ponies.
On the doorstep.
Right. Just like knock, knock, nay. So the mafia rumors intensified when federal agents raided one of his Brooklyn warehouses in 1969. They seized $550,000 worth of hardcore pornography. How do you put a price on that? But they also found financial documents that linked that warehouse that was Michael's and had Michael's business stuff in it to Joseph Colombo, who was the boss of the Colombo crime family.
Why would you keep that in the same room?
You just put it on top of the stack of porn. Yeah. Like, in case you want these, you might want this.
Like, if I was drinking and driving, I wouldn't leave, like, a piece of paper ratting me out for, like, a murder on top of the booze bottle. Like,
just be smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
The mafia rumors intensified beyond the law enforcement and into kind of his peer circle and business associates when Michael started getting more aggressive and retaliating against his rivals in very kind of mob tactic ways.
Just like slaughtering ponies at people's doors.
Exactly. One competitor named Nat Balin formerly manufactured those PG peep show machines like I was talking about with the cartoons.
Ah, yes, the Disney peep show.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, once he saw that they could be used in the adult capacity, he started to sell them to sex shop owners that use them for porn. In 1970, a customer named Harry Mooney in Michigan asked to lease 50 machines from Michael, but Michael's factory couldn't meet the deadline and fill the order. So that customer, Harry Mooney, turned to the competitor, Nat, and bought the machines from him.
The Disney peep shows.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So once he lost that sale to that competitor, Michael told Roger that something had to be done to get rid of Nat.
It's capitalism. I don't know what's going on.
Slow your shit down. Like, you made a ton of money doing this. Someone else is going to do it too.
And it's not his fault that you didn't have 50 machines.
Right.
What?
Yeah. Not his fault at all. Fucking A. So on April 26, 1970, Roger drove from Atlanta to Louisville, where he hired an accomplice, Clifford Wilson. And in the middle of the night, they broke into Nat's factory with burglary tools and 5-gallon containers of gasoline. They put a bunch of furniture and paperwork in the middle and made a bonfire in the middle of his factory. They also found some paint cans in the factory, so they went to the offices and they just poured paint all over the offices, all over the desks, the carpets, fucked up all their paperwork, and just made a mess.
Performance art or something?
Yeah, exactly. The pair fled the scene and called Michael to let him know that the job was done.
These are the dumbest people ever. Like,
it's just so old-timey. I don't even think it's dumb. It's just old. It's like, oh shit, that's old school.
It just wouldn't fly now. I'm like, they're doing everything wrong.
Nowadays, we just crash someone's server or something.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, retaliation of the time.
He honestly could have just fulfilled as many as he could have, still made a sale, and the other guy could have, like, done the other 10 he couldn't fulfill.
Right.
Everybody wins.
Right.
I'm so
or
mad.
give him a discount for waiting or something. Just be like, okay, we can get you the 50, but it's going to be X amount of weeks to account for the lost profit. We'll give you 10% off. We'll give you 20% off.
In the meantime, here's 30.
Right.
Jerk on. Jerk off.
Yeah, there's so many solutions to this, but that's why everybody started thinking about him being tied to the mob, because that seemed like at the time it was a very mobster way to go about things. Like, if you hurt me in one way or I feel slighted, whether that's true or not, I'm going to retaliate.
Yeah, just retaliation without any compromise.
Yes, exactly. So afterwards, Roger's wife noticed that he was really dirty and smoky when he returned home, and she helped him get rid of the clothes that he was wearing.
And now she's guilty.
Exactly. Now she's an accomplice. That's great. Around the same time that the fire happened, another employee named Kenneth Hanna had left Michael's company. And not only did he leave, but he joined a rival peep show company called Red Vought. With him, Kenneth took, of course, inside information about the machines themselves, and he used that info at his new company.
What crazy secret? Like, what undercover secrets about
it was just their technology. I think it's a lot of the security features. That was kind of what Mike's machines were known for. Yeah. So he took that info to Red Vought, the new company. And of course, Michael was completely fucking livid.
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to taking the information, Michael heard that Florida police had recently seized one of the Red Vought trucks that was full of unlicensed copies of Michael Thevis's porn films.
No.
Yes.
This is why you gotta have contracts.
Right?
Where are his lawyers?
Seriously. Michael believed, of course, that Kenneth Hanna was ripping off both his hardware and his machines and the ideas, and also the software and the films and all that. They believed that it was directly his fault.
See, no, that's not capitalism.
Right. So Michael decided to invite Kenneth to his factory for a meeting on the morning of Friday the 13th in November 1970. They met in the warehouse at 8 a.m. before the staff started arriving to start work that day. Kenneth expected to hear about a new business opportunity. Like, he showed up thinking, okay, we're going to go back working together, and he just wants to talk to me about plans.
After Kenneth ratted him out?
Don't know. Yeah, I don't know why he would think that's going over, but he did. But of course, instead, Michael pulled out a pistol and shot him 3 times in the chest. Kenneth's legs kind of buckled underneath him and he dropped to the floor, but he was still alive. And blood was gurgling out of his mouth, and he begged Michael not to kill him. But Michael just shot him in the head without saying a word. Michael then wrapped Kenneth's body in moving blankets, the ones that he used to kind of transport the peat machines in trucks. And he took the blankets and dragged Kenneth's body to his gold Cadillac and dumped the body in the Cadillac inside his own car, basically.
Inconspicuous.
I always expect to find bodies in gold Cadillacs. I'm just saying. Workers were going to show up soon, of course, because they must have started work at like 9 or 10 a.m. And Michael was, of course, covered in blood. The factory floor looked like a murder scene. And he had this random car that he couldn't get rid of that had a body in it. And I'm assuming a track of blood from the factory to the car. So, of course, he frantically called Roger Underhill to help clean up the situation. One of the biggest problems that the two of them had was that once he murdered Kenneth, wrapped him up, put him in the trunk, he realized that the keys for the Cadillac were in the pocket of the body.
You gotta undo the sushi roll.
Exactly. So the first order of business for Roger, and one of the main reasons that Michael called Roger to help, was because he needed to get into that trunk and get the keys so that he could move the car.
Yeah.
So Roger showed up. He got into the trunk, retrieved the keys from Kenneth's body, and then drove the Cadillac to the airport. And he left it in basically long-term parking at the airport.
Sounds like Roger did all the work.
Yes,
What did
I
he
know.
do that he couldn't have taken like a wrench or something popped open?
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm assuming that Michael was cleaning up blood. He would have to.
He brought the bounty.
Exactly. So after he got rid of the car, Roger bought a blowtorch from Sears and he melted the pistol, the Cadillac lock, and the screwdriver into one big chunk of metal.
That's really smart.
Right?
That's
I
so
know.
smart. I never thought of melting.
Yeah, crazy. So Roger went to, I'm not even making this up, Chattahoochee River.
That's where I'm from.
It's the homelands. And he tossed the metal ball of evidence into the water. So now, with the violence kind of heating up around them, Michael decided he really needed to get more legitimate. Like, he needed to slow down with the criminal stuff, change his image, revamp whatever kind of perception of him was out there, and get away from the rumors that were beginning to follow him.
Stop murdering people.
Exactly.
And stop lighting people's fucking businesses on fire.
Yeah.
Especially competitors.
Right.
Go to church.
Because all signs are pointing to you. Like, yeah, it's stupid. So he was also pretty bitter at the time that he had trouble dealing with banks. He had trouble dealing with any legitimate business. Basically, people in the adult world and the underworld and mobsters had no problem dealing with him. But everybody else didn't want anything to do with him.
Is that because they don't want to be associated with porn, or is it because...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he also paid for everything in cash, and he had no choice because he couldn't rely on banks and stuff like that. There was some just kind of tedious, frustrating business things, and also just kind of the emotional aspect of not being a legitimate businessman, not being respected.
But look at all this cash.
Right? That's the thing. Like, he enjoyed the power and the wealth. He wanted that stuff, but he longed for acceptance.
Yeah.
He really wanted people to respect him and like him. And he wanted to be a real businessman. Yeah. So he began a campaign to completely revamp his image. And he sunk millions into buying mainstream acceptance, basically. He began, donating to local charities. He joined the board at his local church. He had his companies join the Better Business Bureau. He began opening also straight businesses like gift shops, bookstores, candy shops. Like, he started this mail order cheese and fruit club. He was just trying to, balance out the adult stuff with regular businesses. He also opened a restaurant, a furniture company, a trunking company, and he invested in real estate.
I was going to say, that's all really cool, but it's also sad because none of those businesses, besides the real estate and everything, is going to ever make as much as.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like trying and trying, but the fruit and cheese thing isn't ever going to make a tenth of what a
Definitely.
peep machine makes. So
that entire business is worth one machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So while he was trying to revamp his image and change that public perception, his family life was kind of starting to fall apart. After 25 years together, Joan and Michael were drifting apart. and they began to fight regularly. They would get in terrible screaming matches, and she would tell him to get out, and, you know, he would maybe leave for a minute, but she was too financially dependent on him to support herself, so he always ended up coming back. But still, in front of other people, Michael and Joan kind of pretended to have still a healthy marriage, you know. In an effort to salvage their relationship, they began taking dance classes together. I feel like that's like an old school thing. Like that's OG marriage counseling,
Yeah.
right?
Salsa class.
Yeah, I feel like that's like what people used to do.
Ballroom dance. Yeah, no, that's cool though.
Unfortunately, this had the opposite effect on their marriage because Michael ended up falling in love with their instructor, Jeanette Evans.
No.
Yes. Jeanette had a very similar, difficult upbringing, just like Michael. They bonded over it immediately. She was also extremely hardworking and determined to make it just like him. They were kind of both semi-workaholics, pretty much. She did the dance instruction, and she also was getting into real estate, trying to be a real estate broker. Michael's wife, Joan, quit the dance classes, and Michael bought the dance school.
No way.
Yes.
And it's funny because his wife's the opposite too. She wasn't financially dependent enough to be without him. And then you have this lady or this woman who hustles so hard. So you can see how he's drawn to her. That's cool.
They have that in common. Yeah. Michael gave Jeanette gifts and money constantly. They planned to get married, and she even ordered a wedding dress. But Michael thought it would look bad if he got divorced, so he decided it should wait till he kind of didn't have any court cases pending because it would just look better for him, especially in the middle of this campaign where he's trying to like revamp his image.
Yeah, and he's on the board of some church or
whatever. He's trying to turn over a new leaf and prove a lot to people around him, so he can't really have a divorce on his record. Yeah,
that's why cheating on your wife and buying your mistress's studio is totally a good idea.
Totally. All right, touche. In January 1971, Roger asked Michael to buy out his shares of the business so that he could move on from the company. And Michael agreed, and he did, and Roger left. At the time, of course, Roger believed that the rumors about the arson and the murders were going to catch up to them. Like, it was just a matter of time in his mind. They were both extremely worried about being caught. And by all accounts, Michael became extremely paranoid. So Michael decided to bug the phones in his offices. And he also gave his employees lie detector tests to check if they were being loyal to him.
Did you eat my ham sandwich that was in the fridge?
It clearly said Michael on it.
No?
So then, after doing that, anybody that they caught or anybody that he suspected, he'd get rid of them, and he started replacing people with family members and any super old friends that he really trusted. So he started prioritizing, like, trusting people over whether they were good at their job. You know,
it's never good.
No. As time passed, there was not progress made in Kenneth Hanna's murder case. Everything was at a standstill. The police didn't have any leads. So Roger and Michael both figured that the danger had passed, that they weren't really going to solve the case. So since Roger saw that kind of the threat was leaving and business was still continuing to go forward, he decided he wanted to come back and work for Cinematics. So he told Michael that he realized that he made a mistake by leaving. He apologized, and Michael agreed to take him back. But of course, Michael, being kind of like the dick that he was, didn't agree to make him a partner again. Like, he wouldn't give him his old standing back. Yeah, he basically told Roger that he would just be a normal employee.
That sucks.
Yes. And he offered him $50 a week.
What?
Yes.
That's newspaper money.
Exactly. Yes. It was really kind of a slap in the face. Like, it was insulting. But Roger wanted to be back so badly, and he knew that he had moved up before, that he thought maybe, you know, I'll take this position and then be able to move up and prove to him that I'm the best guy for the job. So maybe I'll make more money later, you know? Soon after, Michael was convicted on charges of transportation of obscene materials, and he was sentenced to 5 years with a $1,000 fine. His lawyers were actually able to get him out of jail time with a suspended sentence, so he was able to remain a free man. But Michael had to step away from his pornography business. That was like one of the conditions. So he announced his retirement. He made a big deal out of it. It was like, I'm leaving the porn community, and he launched a full PR campaign to clean up the public image for him. He told reporters that he was getting out of pornography, and he began putting all of his money into his non-adult businesses. He built a recording studio where he planned to produce rock music.
Sweet.
And he also tried to make legitimate non-adult movies. And by everything I can tell, they weren't necessarily like big budget films. He pretty much made B movies, low budget kung fu films, nothing that really made any money, you know. He also gave money to schools, little leagues, and Atlanta Symphony and Metropolitan Opera. So he was definitely donating to the arts, you know, really supporting anything that involved children, anything religious, and trying to turn over a new leaf.
Seems like he's doing a good job.
Well, he wasn't really changing at all.
Oh, okay.
So you can't teach an old murderer new tricks, you know?
I mean, money doesn't fix everything.
I really believe that it does, but that's why I'm trying to be rich. Yeah, for him, it was just like he was really trying to prove to. That's the thing. If it's internal, I think it's fine. If it's external and you're just trying to prove it to somebody else or prove it to public perception of you, you're never gonna fucking be happy. You know,
nobody cares.
Right? Like people aren't paying attention to you; they're thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
Get over it. You know. But yeah, he really wanted people to think better of him. It wasn't really internally changing for him. You know, he was still at his core very much a paranoid, angry, resentful person, which was the reason that he would always retaliate against people, you know? So, of course, that cycle continued. And in 1972, Michael decided to take out a competing bookstore near one of his other stores in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yeah, he's pretty cutthroat. I mean, like, what's the
Oh,
he
yeah.
can't just let people be.
Yeah,
Weird.
he can't. Like, it's just impossible for him to let other businesses thrive. It is only him that can have the profits, you know? And he's willing to go to great lengths to just get rid of people. It's scary. So on September 19th, 1972, Roger Underhill drilled a hole in the roof of the building, poured gasoline through it and into the bookstore, and then he used a water pistol, kind of like a flamethrower, to ignite the inside of the store.
Whoa.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And
I mean,
Michael, yeah,
But awesome.
not awesome. Michael paid Roger $1,500 for the job, in addition to his $50 a week. So in 1973, Michael was riding his motorcycle when a car ran him off the road, and he landed at the bottom of this 50-foot embankment. He was really badly hurt. It was a terrible accident. He was lucky to be alive, basically. And he had to recover from really severe internal injuries and also a broken back for months in the hospital. While he was in the hospital, Michael, of course, made plans to take out another rival. Jimmy Mays was a former employee who had a falling out with Michael. And during their fight, whatever altercation they have, Jimmy threatened to kill him. And Michael took it very seriously. He was really upset. After leaving Michael's company, Jimmy had opened his own adult bookstore. And of course, we know, to Michael, that's just the worst possible thing to be a competitor, especially if you're a former employee. But it says a lot about him that he kept having employees that did the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like
stealing all your stuff and doing something better. And it's weird that they would do that knowing that he probably lit somebody's, like their competitor on fire. That's ballsy too.
Yeah. they know what's coming and they're still willing to
Yeah.
try and go for it. So, of course, this competitor, Jimmy, had also used what he learned at the Peep Show factory to build his own machines that he installed in his store. Michael was furious, as always angry about this shit, and he felt betrayed. And he, of course, his natural response was to ask Roger to kill him.
Roger's the muscle.
Yeah,
Doing
for sure.
everything.
And making the least amount of money now. It's fucking crazy. But Roger couldn't do it. He had gotten so far as to actually get a gun and actually went stalking this guy and followed him and got close to him and panicked at the last second. So after that happened, Roger hired a man named Bill Mahar to do the job. Bill installed a pipe bomb in Jimmy's car. And when Jimmy left his bookstore after closing one night in September 1973, he got in his car, started to leave work, turned the ignition, and his car exploded. The explosion was so strong that Jimmy's body was projected out of the roof of his vehicle.
No.
Yeah. Roger was at the scene when it happened, and he grabbed a piece of bone, his watch, and a gold pin to show Michael as proof that the job was done.
Roger's so dumb.
Yes.
Everyone is. Why would you be there? And why would you
Crazy.
take evidence?
I know.
Ugh.
Yeah. Michael joked that he planned to make the bone into a paperweight.
Not funny.
No. After this murder, Roger realized, of course, that he was still Michael's number one guy and he was making less money for just as much responsibility, more risk, more high profile, like illegal, fucked up stuff. And he was always loyal to Michael. And he really got upset, you know. He started to think about, you know, what he was getting in return for the kind of stuff that he was asked to do.
Yeah, you're getting fucked.
Yes. So he started making demands for more money. And Michael refused. He kept turning him down. So Roger turned to burglary and theft to start supporting his family more. One day, Roger's wife was out driving in Roger's car when she got pulled over by police. The story goes that the police could see that there was something wrong with the car because she was driving along, and anytime she hit a bump, the car would hit the street and spark.
No.
Yes. So they're like, okay, something's wrong. We got to pull this lady over. And once they opened up the car, they found a trunk full of gold coins.
Oh, dang.
It was straight Scrooge McDuck in there. It was crazy. Heavy enough to just sink the whole car. Roger was convicted of possessing stolen gold coins and antique firearms. And of course, once he was in custody, the FBI tried to turn Roger against Michael. And initially, of course, Roger refused. And I don't know if it was really out of loyalty to him or if it was fear. And it's probably a combination of both. But there was both things kind of, you know, convincing him that he should stay on Michael's side.
Yeah, you see what he does to everyone.
Exactly. And I think there's probably part of him that felt that Michael could protect him. If anyone could get out of legal troubles, it was proven that Michael was constantly kind of squirming his way out of things and helping out all the managers of his bookstores and stuff. So I think Roger probably felt safer on his side than against him.
Yeah, fantastic lawyers.
Right.
You know?
In 1974, Michael was convicted of obscenity and conspiracy to commit arson charges, and Michael was sent to jail. Soon after, FBI raided the Cinematics Peep Show factory warehouse. FBI agents seized thousands of reels of pornographic film. They also went through all the documents, and inside Michael's office, agents broke into the safe. And inside the safe, they found a to-do list.
Oh, no.
The first thing on the to-do list was to kill Roger. And it was very clear pretty much right away that was his intention. because from behind bars, Michael basically put out a contract on Roger.
No way.
And he was trying to hire various inmates to kill him in jail. There were several people that succeeded in harming him in several incidents, but each time he was basically sent to the infirmary. He spent a while recovering from his injuries and then was sent back to general population. And then it would just happen again and he would get attacked, but he would survive every time.
That's worse than death.
I was thinking about that as I was writing this. Like, I think I'd rather die. If I was sitting there thinking that someone could kill me at any moment of any day and just going through that for months and months.
I wouldn't sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. It would drive me completely insane. Yeah. I feel really bad for him. That's crazy.
It's one thing to be paranoid and have nothing happen and then feel like foolish about it after, but when it continuously happens.
Yes. Yeah. The FBI managed to record Michael and Roger talking over the telephone once. And Roger asked Michael, "Are you trying to kill me?" And Michael just said, "Well, Roger, you got to do what you got to do."
Word up.
Fucked up. Yeah. So eventually, of course, after all these kind of incidents and all these attacks, and clearly Michael's not denying that it's him, Roger decided to flip on him. And his parents were definitely instrumental in convincing him, like, you really shouldn't be protecting this guy because he's trying to have you murdered
every day.
Know? And on top of that, there was also a rumor that Mike had slept with Roger's wife. So to add insult to injury, he was like, yeah, I'm flipping on this guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
After the first time I got stabbed and I knew there was hit,
really.
The minute he says you got to do what you got to do,
yeah. He held out for a long time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made it. So Roger began talking to the FBI and he tried to make a deal to turn state's witness in exchange for early release. Roger told the FBI the details of Kenneth Hanna's murder. He told them where to find the evidence, that melted down hunk of metal that he had thrown into the river. And of course, they recovered the evidence and matched it to Kenneth Hanna's murder. I don't know how, if it was all melted down, but they say they matched it.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense, but...
Yeah.
Hey.
I don't know. In prison, Michael wrote to his congressman, Andrew Young, and asked for help in getting medical treatment. And the congressman helped arrange his transfer to a federal medical facility in Springfield, Missouri. In April 1978, marshals transported Michael from his cell in that medical facility to where he was facing trial in Louisville for the Balin arson that happened earlier. FBI warned the jailers that Michael was an escape risk. And because of Roger's information that was about to lead to murder charges, they considered it extremely high risk. Like, he was definitely going to try and leave. But the jail still gave him special privileges while he was there. Michael was given unlimited telephone calls and at least one unsupervised trip outside the jail. Additionally, he was allowed to have sexual relations at the jail with his mistress, Patricia McLean.
Was he paying people off? I don't...
Yes.
Okay.
For sure. A newspaper even reported that deputies had watched them have sex through the mirrors in, like, interrogation rooms.
Dirty.
Yeah.
They nasty.
And corrections officers later admitted to taking $50 and $100 quote tips from Michael. There was also some accusations that they'd given him, like given the COs cigars and various presents, you know, alcohol, stuff like that.
Yeah, you could just take the stuff and then confiscate it.
And then just be like, no, you're staying in your fucking cell.
Yeah, thanks for the booze.
Yeah. On April 28th at 4 p.m., guards led Michael into the chief deputy's office to use the telephone, which by all accounts he did for like several hours every day. They would just take him to this office, he'd use the phone, call people and whatever, conduct business, be on social calls, and they would come back hours and hours later.
He's just like a high school girl on
yeah,
the phone
right?
in jail.
Right. So when they came back to get him and take him back to his cell, it was 10 o'clock. So 6 hours had passed. But of course, he wasn't there. The office was empty. Michael had escaped and he was on the run with the dance instructor, Jeanette Evans. So even the one he boned down in the interrogation room didn't come with him.
Oh, man.
Never be a side bitch.
But you can't be the wife either. Look what happened to her. Just be the dance teacher.
Always be the dance teacher. So the FBI added Michael to their 10 most wanted list, and they distributed wanted posters across the U.S. Michael and Jeanette used the aliases RBJ Evans, aka AJ Evans, and Sally Green. They crossed America several times and were on the run for months. Inside the car, Michael had a police radio that he used to spot cops. He had like a gray wig, 5 handguns, $550,000 in cash, and $1 million in jewelry. Jeanette booked Michael a $1,400 hair transplant for October 26th, and evidence showed that he bought her a ring. Their plan was to travel kind of till things died down and they weren't at risk anymore, and then they were going to settle into a quiet life, and I guess they said they were going to stop in Connecticut. That was where they wanted to end up. But one day, Michael got particularly worked up and decided to turn the car around and head back to Atlanta because he needed to get revenge on Robert.
No, yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Connecticut?
He could not let it go.
Yeah, just let it go.
Nope. Not when you're Michael Thevis.
Oh, man. He was right there. He was all... I'd be so pissed if I was
You were
the
so
dance
close
teacher.
to being gone.
Yeah.
You had that dancer booty and everything. You wanted to give it up for revenge.
Dad, the hair transplants.
It's just stupid.
Like, what a waste if you're going to get caught.
So Roger was in hiding and he was prepping for his testimony, but he was still in the area. He was about to go into witness protection, and he needed to kind of tie up some loose ends before he left. Michael was using accomplices to track down Roger basically anywhere that he was usually found. They kind of stalked all his known addresses, anywhere that he hung out, any businesses, and tried to find him. On October 24th, 1978, Jeanette visited a local real estate broker's office in Atlanta, and she asked for information about a specific property. The broker pulled up the tax records, and he told her that the owner was Roger Underhill. That night, someone drove a car into the gate of the property and destroyed it. I think that was kind of an attempt to maybe get some attention so that Roger would show up, but it didn't work. By all accounts, nothing came from the gate being broken, but I think the expectation was that someone would hear it or a neighbor would see it and call Roger, and then Roger would come and they could attack him. But that never happened. But eventually, after they kind of sat on this location, stalked it for a while, Roger arrived at the property to meet a prospective buyer named Isaac Galanti. So they came onto the property. They walked around a little bit. He was showing him around because he wanted him to buy it. And all of a sudden, gunshots rang out. Isaac and Roger both got bullet wounds in the head and chest. And Isaac died almost instantly.
No.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Did you buy
I know.
A real estate agent?
He was, yeah. And he was a potential buyer.
No, he was the buyer. I'm saying, why didn't the other guy just get a real estate agent? You know, because if someone walked in and they saw a real estate agent, they'd be like, oh, we don't have to shoot him.
Yeah. I don't know.
Why would you show up? That's so stupid.
I feel bad. Yeah. This guy was basically like a grocer, a small businessman, like just trying to buy a new property.
That's so sad.
Yeah, come up in the world. Yeah. About 25 minutes later, Roger's wife, Irene Williams, arrived at the property. At first, she thought that she saw bags of trash lying in the middle of the field, But as she got closer, she definitely realized what was going on. Paramedics showed up and worked on Roger while police attempted to talk to him and get some last information out of him because clearly he was in pretty bad shape. With his dying breaths, Roger informed police that Michael Thevis had been the one who shot him. So, of course, the loss of Roger threw a major wrench in the government's case against Michael. He was the primary witness, the primary testimony. That was what they were relying on. They had other evidence and paper trails and whatnot, but that was really their star witness, you know?
Nail in the coffin.
Yeah. So not only did they lose the testimony from Michael's right-hand man, but they also had other witnesses that began to back out and refuse to testify. Like after Roger's murder, the search for Michael intensified, of course. So in November 1978, Michael walked into a Connecticut bank to try and withdraw $30,000 cash from an account he had opened under an alias.
This guy just keeps winning, dude.
I know, but just you wait.
Woohoo.
Michael was wearing a toupee and had shaved the beard and mustache that was basically on the wanted posters, like changed his image from what he was usually known as to something different. The bank teller was suspicious and he was concerned about the situation and called the police.
Because his toupee was like falling back.
Crooked and yeah.
Mustache is falling off.
Fresh shave marks, just like little bumps and toilet paper still sticking on there. Yeah. So Michael sensed something was wrong. Once the guy called the police, even though he didn't do it in front of him, he was like, something's wrong, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And he told the teller he'd changed his mind about the money and he just wanted to leave. Which isn't suspicious at all. But of course, it was too late. And the police were already outside talking to Jeanette. And they headed inside to get Michael. The authorities speculated that at the time of his arrest, Michael was gathering as much cash as possible so he could flee the country. Especially after Roger's murder, I think that even though they wanted to stay in Connecticut, they figured that they had to leave the country after that, I think.
That should have been plan A.
Right?
All along.
Yeah. A search of their car led to the discovery of $411,000 in cash and over $1 million in jewelry. A search of a rental locker belonging to Michael led to the transcripts of interviews that the FBI had conducted with Roger Underhill. I have no idea how he got FBI transcripts, but he must have had some inside guy. Yeah.
He was paying off all the COs and everything. I'm sure he just paid his way.
Yeah, it's not a big leap. You're right. Fingerprint analysis revealed over 100 of Michael's fingerprints and palm prints throughout the transcripts, and one from Jeanette Evans. Jeanette Evans was charged with harboring a fugitive and being an accomplice. Her bail was set at $2.5 million.
She received 6 months.
Right? Michael Thevis was charged with murder, extortion, and arson. And of course, Michael denied all charges. The jury was presented more than 1,000 cartons of evidence and testimony from 300 witnesses. So several witnesses came forward to testify that Michael had been near Roger's property the morning of the murder. There was also a neighbor that had seen him coming and going. They also had, of course, witnesses that placed him at the factory the morning of Kenneth Hanna's murder, too.
That's awesome that they had so many witnesses.
Yeah, I think once that he was like really finally caught, people felt safe to come forward. Thank goodness. In the media, Michael, of course, called the witnesses all liars, and he played the victim role totally. It was just like everybody's ganging up on me and whatever, I'm innocent. It was crazy. A psychiatrist for the defense called Roger mentally unbalanced and paranoid. Michael said that the lead FBI investigator had, quote, tunnel vision and myopic lunacy, and that made him obsessed with capturing Michael and basically incapable of seeing other evidence suggesting that Michael was innocent. No.
Yeah.
He also claimed that the lead investigator was power hungry and intended to use Michael's case to earn himself a promotion. And even if those things are true, that doesn't make him innocent.
Yeah.
You know?
It's besides the point. You still murdered people.
Exactly. On October 21st, 1979, the jurors returned a guilty verdict for Michael Thevis, Jeanette Evans, and accomplice Bart Hood.
Yes.
All three of them were sentenced to life in prison.
All three of them?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, the jury basically had some trouble coming to that agreement because Jeanette Evans was linked into it. And there was a bunch of people, you know, that at sentencing showed up and said she was basically in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was basically in love with someone that was a bad person and it's not her fault. But they decided to try all three people together, so they had to give Michael the same punishment as Jeanette.
Yeah, I mean, she's still new, too, and she could have prevented...
They were obviously on the run.
Yeah.
And she was benefiting from it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And she could have, if she said something earlier, she could have prevented Roger's
exactly
murder, maybe.
And she was the one that went in to the real estate office and got the address.
Exactly.
She was complicit in a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't have known where he lived.
Exactly.
So, yeah, she pretty much did that.
Yeah. So all three of them served life in prison. Jeanette Evans became a born-again Christian and was a model prisoner. She was released in 1992. During the 90s, Michael Thevis's former mansion became the home of Whitney Houston.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. But after that, when she sold the house, Michael's son, Tony, the one that choked, that Roger saved. So Tony became a successful real estate agent and decided to buy back the house. And when he did, he restored it to its original state and got a lot of the similar furniture, the paintings,
Sistine
stuff like
Chapel.
that. Exactly.
Weird. Why would you want to reminisce on...
I know.
That's kind of random.
But I mean, it's his childhood.
Okay.
You
yeah,
know,
I forgot
like,
about that.
Even if it came from some bad shit, it's probably home to him.
Yeah.
You know?
It's nostalgic.
Yeah. So I don't know if Michael was a well-behaved inmate or anything. Really, the only thing I know about his incarceration was that he had a secret hamster that he named Scooter while in prison. So Michael Thevis died of heart and respiratory failure in 2013 at the age of 81.
What about the hamster?
Scooter made it and lived to 107. And that's the story of Michael Thevis and Scooter.
That was good. That was great. That was awesome. I want a peep machine real bad.
I know.
It's been on my mind the entire...
I want so many things that are like that. Like I want a pinball machine, a peep machine, like...
I want a peep machine for hentai.
Yes! Oh my God, that would be amazing.
And like a furry one or like a... It's like all MILF. Maybe we could just categorize them.
Well, I think we need to get jobs at a newsstand because obviously that's the first step in being a millionaire.
True.
And then eventually we can get peep machines.
All right, I'm with you. I'm with you. Let's start this corporation. Peep Corp.
And that was XXX Part 2.
I love porn.
Not quite as informative as your porn story. I didn't really come up with new technology.
I think yours was way more informative, and nobody cares about mopes, so...
So yeah, I don't know. I really like the stories that have kind of that organized crime element that kind of unfold like a mobster story. I know that it's not as nuanced and like intense with details of forensics or anything, but I really do enjoy kind of that rise and fall kind of story, which a lot of mobster stories have, where it's like, you know, you keep getting more money, more success, more power, then you get greedy, then you get paranoid, and then it all falls apart. Extreme
highs to extreme lows.
Yes, those are always so fascinating to me. Yeah,
I like the highs, and porn has the best highs,
right? So the combination. Yeah.
I'm surprised he wasn't addicted to drugs or anything like crazy. I know it's always in the porn industry, and you're in the 70s.
Yeah,
you know.
It was just really surprising that he was, I don't know, not a sex addict, not a drug addict. It's just really rare.
Yeah, where like the religious background doesn't turn you into a complete
Yeah, because that could have easily led to like a ridiculous bondage fetish or something.
I think just being poor is what really did it to him, because like that need to keep everything to yourself.
Yeah.
Like you never had anything, so the things you get, like nobody else can have them, which is weird. You know?
Yeah.
Doesn't want anyone. He always took out his competitors because they wanted to infringe on his money.
Right. Not only did he want all the money, but he was willing to protect it with by any means necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is so unnecessary if you look at it in hindsight or the bigger
There's
picture.
so much money out there.
So much money and so much porn, and people. It's just it sells itself. It's a product that is needed on the daily.
Right.
You know, I'd watch a new porn every day.
I know.
Twice a day.
5 times a day. 15. 87.
Just on loop.
13,000. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it's just a personality type. It's just, you know, it's him. It's because of whatever led in his personality and his upbringing combined to being a dangerous combination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just be poor and lazy, you know, like with your upbringing.
That's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I
who
think
are we
that's...
thanking?
Huh?
I say, who are we thanking?
Oh, okay.
It looked like you were about to thank someone.
Yeah, let's say thank you to new Patreon supporters Nancy, Henry, Megan, Robin, Beverly, and Angela. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So the link for our Patreon will be in our show notes. So if you want to go over there and get access to bonus episodes, get some stickers and magnets and a bunch of stuff.
Small, big merch items.
Small, big.
Small, big, big, small.
Then you can join our Patreon.
Yep.
And if you want bigger ones, then go to our thread list. You get shirts, phone cases, notebooks, everything. Yeah. Sheets, body pillows.
Yes. Thought masters. No,
I thought you said thought masters for a second. I was like, really? Is that a thought you like squeeze with your thighs? I think that's pretty much it for us this week, right? Yeah. You know what to find in the show notes. We believe in you. You could do it.
Yep.
And that's
You're
it.
Capable.
Yeah.
Are we doing X soon again? Are we still on X?
Yeah, I think we should do an X part 3. We should do some more XXX murders.
Another nasty?
Yeah. I'm all about it.
All right, I'm excited.
So I think that's pretty much it for us. We go, you know, watch some nudie girls and true crime and chill.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I just want to, you know, give a shout out to you. You got a big surgery this week, so good luck. And we all love you and stuff, and we're going to all show support, and we're so happy you're doing it. Woo!
Yeah, we're pre-recording this, so it'll probably, you know.
Oh, so I'm wrong?
No.
I was like...
No. But, I mean... It'll be over by this time. Hopefully, I'll just like...
Cool.
I'll be literally drowning in my own blood by the time that this is released.
Brianna, you did great, and I'm just so proud of you. If you
For
when
pulling
you're listening
through that
this,
surgery.
Yeah, you did so good, and just relax. You know what? Put your feet up if they're not already up.
My favorite thing is when people tell me to relax.
Relax. Oh man, it lights
because I'm so fucked
head.
Up and anxious over this surgery. People just relax. It's like that's not a fucking answer. I might die. Like fuck you.
I'd rather try to calm down.
It's so the worst. That's like people are just like, be chill, be calm, relax. I'm just like, I don't have that setting right now. My life is in danger. Sorry, bro. I'm not gonna feel relaxed till this is over.
And
you know?
When you're listening to this, it'll be over. So when you hear this,
so I will be officially relaxed by the time you guys hear this.
Way to go, future Brianna.
Right, I think that's it. Here. True crime
and chill. Let's do it.
Yeah. Bye.
Choo choo.
Hi, I'm Dina Marie, the host of the Twisted Philly podcast, and I've got a question for you. Do you love podcasts? Because I sure do. And that's why the podcast community, Podcast We Listen To, is hosting their very first podcast convention for listeners. It's called Podern Love. The Podern Love convention is for listeners by listeners. It's for all of us, and it includes podcasts from every genre you could imagine, including comedy, movies and TV, pop culture, paranormal, history, health and fitness, true crime, and so many more. Our first convention is August 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2018, in one of the coolest cities in the country, New Orleans, Louisiana. And it's being held at the Intercontinental Hotel, which is a premier French Quarter hotel. The location is amazing, and the room rate can't be beat either. It's only $129 a night. Tickets are on sale on the website at www.podern.love. That's www.podern.love. There are over 40 independent podcasts already lined up to present at Podern Love, and we'll be adding more before the convention. Plus, featured podcasters have discount codes, so you can get a discount on your tickets. Be sure to follow Podern Love on Twitter and Facebook for the latest convention updates, news, information about new shows that are joining, and links to a dedicated website just for Podern Love attendees to book their hotel room. We can't wait to see you this August in New Orleans.
And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Can I take these off? All right. What is this? This looks good. Wow. That's well made. Where did you get this? I'm talking to you with the hair. Yeah, where did you get this? It's good stuff. That's solid. That's not veneer. That's solid stuff.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.